complete.
It'll be a long plane ride home.
Oh, boy.
In what was a huge win for antibiotics, the Cowboys fall to the Jets fresh off of Sam Darnold's return from mono. And afterwards, you started getting the trolls, like Terrell Owens, who tweeted, "Hey, at Real Jerry Jones, still think Jason Garrett's the answer for a decade now. It's the same old song and dance. I knew they were going to Jason Witten on the third down prior to touchdown and knew they were going to him on the two-point conversion." We also had a Des Bryant Twitter troll appearance. The question I pose here to the group is the problem in Dallas purely Jason Garrett?
No, he's going to get blamed for everything, but he has been there. Look, if you've only got one win and you've been a head coach for over 10 years.
One playoff win, yeah.
One playoff win, like, come on. And that's all they he eventually has to go. I like Jason Garrett. He's
not
smart
the
guy,
answer, right?
But
no way.
I think that's obvious. He's not the answer.
No.
Whether
Clearly.
he's the problem or not, he's certainly not as the solution. And he's had a decade. And he's gone through a really good quarterback in Tony Romo, and now a bright, good quarterback with Dak Prescott, and it still hasn't happened. And you're watching all these other teams in the NFL reach out to different head coaches and start having some success that they haven't had in the past. And so, yeah, I mean, listen, this offense looks completely different than it did the first 3 weeks of the season. To me, it looks like Jason Garrett has taken over the offense from Kellen Moore.
And I never want to say this because I think it sounds very stupid when talking heads who put on makeup and speak on television say this.
but we look good.
We do. Hey, we do. But the Jason Garrett seems to have lost the locker room. And I say that they just look like a team that's uninspired. They go into this game, it looked like they never really were going to have a chance. There's a time where Jason Garrett comes out on the field with both his hands out like this, and the entire offense.
Look, here's the video.
His job right by him. We don't give a damn about you, pal. It's been a decade of average. We can't do it. It just seems like there's something nasty brewing down there in the Cowboys. And behind the scenes, I don't know what it is with Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett and Kellen Moore now. Something has to get fixed because they're going to be forced down our throat on national television every single week. I would like them to be good. I'm just not sure Jason Garrett's the guy to get them.
Can we say something in the interest of fairness? He played this game without the best left tackle in football and another offensive lineman. Amari Cooper played 3 snaps and another wide receiver was hurt. And I know no one wants to hear this, but the Jets are a much better team than they had shown the first, or at least the last 3 weeks of the season, because they didn't have a quarterback. They have a good defense. I'm not suggesting that this is a loss the Cowboys should be proud of, but I do not think the sky is falling as much as people are making of it based on the fact that they lost to an 0-4 team. That was not a normal 0-4 team yesterday.
Well, I mean, those are valid points, Greeny.
Why are you laughing at
Sean
that?
Payton's been doing it without Drew Brees.
I mean, come on. That's not your average run-of-the-mill 0-4
Well, how many 0-4 teams lose their quarterback to mono?
Look, I called the game. I said the Jets were going to win this thing, but here's the deal, and you're right. Tyron Smith's not out there, and it's not falling. But it's the same old song and dance. I agree with the fact that, look, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to get on a roll at the end, and guys like me are going to believe in them. You know, they got all this talent, and then they're going to lose in the playoffs immediately.
It's going to be just enough for Jason Garrett to keep his job.
Look, Lincoln Riley's going to get this job. I called it last year. I just missed it by a year.
Don't you want a head coach that's able to overcome losing some? I mean, it's the NFL. You're going to have to coach without your big-time players at some point. We're seeing Sean Payton do it in New Orleans. Like, at some point, your coaches have to help you overcome losing or missing some key players.
Well, New England's missing 2 starters in the offensive line, and we just
3.
The no
3. Excuse me.
Thing,
well, they're winning.
That speaks louder than anything. I mean, that is a big deal.
All right, so we've got that game. Let's get to what really was, in many ways, I think, the most significant game of the day, and that was this: the battle of the 2 young star quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. First drive of the game for Kansas City. Welcome back, Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, outstanding use of the hard count by Patrick Mahomes on 3rd and long, gets Houston to jump, and then the elevation by the Cheetah to go up over 2 guys on defense and pull down this touchdown for Kansas City.
They don't miss that, though.
So he was obviously a big return. So it's 7-0 Chiefs. Now here's a crazy play in this game. Mahomes is going to throw a pick, and you're going to say, why is he throwing it there? There should have been a flag.
Well, Travis Kelce's going out for a route, but he can't because he gets tackled by somebody on Houston, and for some reason, they justified no flag.
Yeah, on a day where they threw flags on practically everything else. And then here's a huge play in the game.
This play completely swings the game. They go from interception, getting the ball, Houston turns it into a sack fumble, and we're going to see it on the very next play. Deshaun Watson going to turn it into a turnover in points for Houston's offense.
And gives Texans the lead. This is a game in which they trailed early. It looked like Kansas City might run them out of the building, but instead, as you mentioned, it is Watson running into the end zone, and Houston takes the lead. Now, just over 6 minutes left in the third. Chiefs are down by 6 on a 3rd and goal. It's Mahomes scrambling, and here's Tyreek again.
Yeah, good job on 3rd and goal to figure out some space, find a seam in the pocket, and then Tyreek Hill to sit where nobody on defense is.
Don't
Touchdown
do
Chiefs.
that.
And he sticks the landing. 24-23 Chiefs. Just under 10 seconds to go in the third. 3rd and goal. Watson looking for DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, he's picked.
Good physicality by Ward at the line of scrimmage. You got physical with Hop. The ball was kind of a 50-50 jump ball. Ward won it.
But they get him the ball back again. And here's Watson showing you the physicality. Can he take it in over the man? Yes, he can. He can take it in and score. Texans would add a 2-point conversion, so they're up 31-24. Later in the fourth, same score. They could kick a field goal to try and put the game away. But instead, Rex?
I love it. Put it in your best player's hands. And you get to Hopkins. You're going to throw it to Hopkins, Deshaun Watson. Great call.
It's exactly
Great
what
call.
they do. Put it in the hands of Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, and they do. A statement win on the road. Watson with 3 total touchdowns and 280 passing yards on the day. And so, look, this is the second consecutive week we've talked about it. Is there now a blueprint out there to beat the team that so many people think is the best in the AFC, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, the Super Bowl favorites, the Indianapolis Colts, I think they used what they learned in the Detroit Lions game with Matt Patricia, where you use man coverage, you get a little bit of pressure, and you try to keep Patty Mahomes off the field. Now, granted, that's a lot easier said than done, but a lot of teams have been able to do it here in recent history. Now the question is, if the Broncos can't do that to the Chiefs on Thursday night, should the Broncos head coach get fired? Because it feels like now we know an exact way to beat the Chiefs. And with that being said, the Houston Texans, Deshaun Watson, what a performance by them. They didn't play nowhere near a perfect game, and we're still able to get a win over a dominant Chiefs team. Has to feel good down in H-Town with Paul Wall.
Well, a dominant offensive team, but their defense is awful. And look, they're 30th in the league in run defense. But it's funny, Dan, you talked about to us that they did it differently, but they still ran the ball down their throat. But they can't play pass defense either. So if you can't play run defense or pass defense, at least last year they turned the ball. They got turnovers and they got sacks. Yeah. They're not even doing that this year. So look, the same old story for the Chiefs. Get in the playoffs, get beat in the first or second round.
Yeah, I find it interesting because I was with the Houston Texans when we used to have to play against Peyton Manning. And I remember Gary Kubiak sitting there designing the game plan and talking to our offense and saying, listen, it's not good enough to just score points this week with Peyton on the field or on the opponent. You have to score points and make sure that he's off the field. We talked about the Colts and their way of doing it 2 weeks ago. The Texans did the same thing to the Chiefs. They just did it differently. It was the run game and then a dink and dunk offense where it was really about not throwing the football downfield, but getting it out of Deshaun Watson's hands and getting completions. Some numbers way to do it on the bench.
And I would argue Deshaun Watson being able to play that style of offense while also being able to run for his life and throw the deep ball makes him a legit contender to be the next great quarterback. But what the Houston Texans went in there and dominated the Chiefs, it'll be interesting to see how everybody else chooses to do it against them.
Will Fuller dropped 3 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Or
Missed
what?
extra
I mean,
point
this
too,
is
yeah.
unreal.
So to Greedy's point with the Jets, this is essentially more of an endorsement for the Texans and an indictment
No
of the
doubt.
Chiefs,
Right.
is what we're saying. All right. It's time now to get up and go. We're going to start with Kyler Murray, who had the best statistical passing game of his young career, throwing for 340 passing yards and 3 touchdowns and a 78.9 QBR as the Cardinals beat the Falcons 34-33. I think Dan Quinn's calling plays. He certainly wouldn't want to hear those stats. How about Lamar Jackson?